This book it basically explains why we do everything that we do. Hey guys, how's it going? It's Arit here. In this video, I wanted to share a book with you that I'm just about almost finished reading. It's called The Power of Habit, and the author is Charles Duhigg, and this book it basically explains why we do everything that we do in our lives, in our business. It is really almost like the Bible for habit. So if you really want to understand how habits are formed, how to change habits, and really understand the true power of how much they affect our lives, this is such a great book. He draws from real life examples, from organizations to societies to just individual people. He uses all of these examples to really help show his point about how habits are formed. Now, my biggest takeaway from this book is the 3-step loop that he talks about. And this loop is basically 3 steps to how habits are formed. And he says the first step is the cue, the trigger. The second step is the routine. It's that thing that you do in response to the cue. And the third step is the reward, right? It's the gratification or whatever we get from doing that habit. So for example, I'm a big coffee drinker. And so the cue for me is that whenever I sit down to work, I feel like I need a coffee. So that is my routine. I have a cup of coffee with me, or I go get a cup of coffee, or I drink coffee. And the reward is just that sense of gratification, like, there's a lot of psychology behind this. And like, I don't know if it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside or whatever it is, because coffee doesn't actually taste that great, but it's a habit, right? It's a habit that forms. For example, smokers, the cue might be really, really stressed out. The routine is smoking, and the reward is just, feeling a sense of, a little bit of a sense of relaxation. So this 3-step loop that he talks about is just really so interesting, because he says that if you want to change your habit, you have to keep the cue, so the first step, and the reward, the third step, the same. You have to keep those exactly the same and then change the routine. So for example, for me, if I want to get off coffee, which I kind of do, I'm trying to switch it out with tea, but it's not really working. And here's why: because tea doesn't give me the same reward. So whatever that routine is in between the cue and the reward, it needs to give you that same gratification. So to switch coffee out for tea for me doesn't really give me that same reward. But if I were to switch out for decaf coffee, so having less caffeine, but still the same, the same warmth of coffee and the same taste of coffee, etc., then that might give me the same reward. I actually haven't tried it, but that's an example, right? A lot of people now are quitting smoking because they are switching out the habit of smoking for vaping. So again, that routine is switched out, and it's really helping them get rid of the cigarettes because they're keeping the triggers and the reward the same. So I thought that was just fascinating, and it made me think about what other habits I have that I can personally change to make my life better. Habits are the building blocks of our lives. Whatever habits we have now will basically determine who we become a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now. So I really highly recommend reading this book if you're interested in understanding how your own habits work and how to change them if you have bad habits that you want to get rid of. He really built it up really greatly, and using the examples, like stories are just so powerful, right? And he uses a ton of stories to help us understand, again, the power of habits and how they're built, how you can change them, etc. So I really highly recommend this book. I'm going to put a link down in the description below, a link to Amazon where you can find this book if you're interested. And Let me know what books you guys are reading. You know, I would love to hear your own personal recommendations for what your favorite books are. So leave them down in the comments below under this video for me. That would be awesome. I'd love to hear from you. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Back from the dead.